Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Are you listening to the right podcast? Because you're supposed to be listening to Three Guys in a Flick. Are you listening to that right now? Then you're in the right place. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
I've no wish to fight you.
Three guys and a flick with Don, Ken, and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, Far and Away. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from the Paradise Burlesque Club in Boston. Nice. My name is Don. And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
Heidi ho.
And to my left, we have the professor, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah?
I'm ready to kiss the Blarney Stone.
Blarney Stone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure.
What about you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Tonight we are talking about Far and Away. Far and Away comes to us via the Bronco helmet from one of our listeners, Yvette T. And when asked why she threw that into the helmet, she said she likes this film. It's a period piece, so she's already on board. And she likes Cuckoo Pants and Kidman. So, you know.
That's Captain Cuckoo Pants.
It's actually Dr. Cuckoo Pants.
Oh.
That's what I called him. But when he became Captain Moonlight last night, he became Captain Cuckoo Pants.
That's where I figured.
Yeah.
So, John, what are the other two movies that they did together?
Eyes Wide Shut,
which
I think was because their eyes were sealed shut. I don't know.
Oh, no. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh, yes.
Oh, of course you have. Orgies. Of course you have. What else?
The other movie they did together.
Isn't Cuckoo Pants' name Cole Trickle?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't remember the other one.
Days of Thunder.
Oh, that's right.
Days of Thunder.
I've only seen bits and pieces of that one.
It's not a bad watch if you like race car driving and Cuckoo Pants.
It's got Robert Duvall in it.
And Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker.
So
that's my first Michael Rooker movie.
And isn't it Brockheimer?
It probably is.
I think it is. Simpson and Brockheimer, I think. I think it's before Simpson dies. No, I don't know. But yeah. Had either of you seen this before?
Yes.
I've seen it a few times.
Wait, hang on. Say that again?
I have seen this movie a few times.
Really?
Yes.
How many times have you seen it?
Probably maybe this was my fourth time.
4 times.
Yes.
Wow, 4 times.
And to be honest, the first 2, maybe 3 times I enjoyed the movie. But going into this movie, I've got a lot of negatives.
Really?
Oh, well,
I'll be curious to hear what that's about.
I looked at it from a whole different vantage point, and honestly, I don't think I will watch this movie again. But it's Ron Howard. It's a well-made movie, beautiful scenery. The acting isn't horrible. It's a great movie overall. There's just, like I said, we'll get into it, but there are reasons why I don't see the movie the same way I used to.
okay.
This is our second Ron Howard movie. What was the first?
Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Oh, then it's our third.
Oh, Willow.
Oh, fuck me sideways. Released on May 22nd, 1992, Far and Away was directed by Ron Howard. Story by Bob Dolman and Ron Howard. And it stars Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, Thomas Gibson, Robert Prosky, Cyril Cusack, and a bunch of other actors.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $60 million and brought in $138 million.
That year, it only made in the box office $58 million. So it didn't even recover its costs the first year.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me. But
This was a costly movie.
yeah,
$60 million. I wonder how much of it was just in salaries.
at that time, 92, Cruise was probably getting 20, I would think.
Probably.
Because I think it was Jim Carrey was the first one to get 20.
Yeah,
And
he
then
was.
after that, everything just kind of blew out of proportion.
You
So
And I think this is our first 1992 movie that we have done.
Really?
I think so.
Huh. Interesting.
I got to say, when I looked at the top 20, I have seen like 19 of those 20. And I'll bet you I saw most of them in the theater.
Well, fucking hit me. Top 5.
You don't
Oh, you didn't write them down?
No, I did, but I'm curious. Can you give me another 1992 movie?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm with you now. 92.
I wrote down the top 10.
Okay.
But-
Batman Returns.
Batman Returns is number 1.
Bam! Fucking nailed it. It's like Family Feud.
I'm going to steal it from you if you don't get them all.
Why'd you write them down? You looked them up?
He
Of course
did.
you did. You
Of course he did.
Fucking cheater.
I do my homework.
I'm doing this by fucking memory. That's the point of it.
So in other words, you didn't study. You just figured I'm going to come in cold and take the test.
And get the number 1 answer? Yeah, dude, I'm pretty fucking cold.
The only reason I looked this up was because how could we not have had another 92 movie? It's our first 92 movie. And so I was just curious, and I looked. It's like, well, I wonder what was big that year. And I'm like, oh, wow, look at all those.
What'd you say was your first guess?
Batman Returns.
That wasn't the number 1 movie.
According to the professor, it was.
Yes, it was.
Not domestic or worldwide in 92.
162 million.
Yeah, but in domestically, Aladdin made 217.
Aladdin made 123 million.
Oh, I like this game better. What's number 3?
I have worldwide, it made 504 million. Aladdin made 217, according to...
So domestic box office for that year, 1992, Aladdin pulled in $123 million.
And then how much did Home Alone in New York?
149 million.
That's not what I saw at Mojo.
Mojo, where'd you go?
It's a website called The Numbers.
Oh,
The numbers. All right, well, there you go. So, okay, I'm going to guess that the top 5 movies in 92 were Batman Returns, Aladdin, Home Alone 2, and what else did you guys say?
well, keep going.
Totally. So number 3 was Lethal Weapon 3. Number 4 was
yes.
Sister Act. 6 is Wayne's World, Basic Instinct, A League of Their Own, The Bodyguard, Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I saw all of those in the theater.
So did I.
I also had A Few Good Men on that list.
Not in the top 10. Number 15.
We were looking at different lists.
I can't trust anything that comes out of your fuckers' mouths.
I did also have that Far and Away, I think was number 29 on the list, or did you look up what I ranked?
Where did it fall on the list?
Number 20.
20.
Point for him.
All right, so there's a 9 movie discrepancy. Interesting. One participant in this film that I had no idea was in it, and my face just lit up when I saw his name.
Thomas Gibson.
Who the fuck is Thomas Gibson?
That's the bad guy.
He's the antagonist.
Oh, he's a dude from Dharma and Greg. No. John Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I have completely forgotten that John Williams did this score, and I remember watching it and listening into it thinking, it doesn't quite sound like a typical John Williams score. It was very different.
Right, not until the third act.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we get to the third act, then it's John Williams.
Yeah.
I feel that I corrected a mistake that I had been making for years about this movie, about people who were in this movie. For some reason, on all the previous viewings, I thought the little kid in the fighting burlesque room was Dustin Diamond.
Oh,
I always thought he looked like Screech.
That's funny.
And I think this is our first Nicole Kidman movie.
Lucky us. This is kind of earlier in her career, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if I...
Yeah, this is, I think she really takes off in 1990 with Days of Thunder. That's where she makes a big splash. And then she's pretty powerful in the 90s. What got her on the map was the movie that she did before that, which was Dead Calm. Did you ever see Dead Calm?
Isn't that with Sam Neill?
Mm-hmm.
It's on the boat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on a sailboat.
Yeah. She did that before this?
Mm-hmm.
I remember her from a movie called BMX Bandits.
Ooh.
We did do a Nicole Kidman movie.
Okay, hang on. We did do a Nicole Kidman movie, and it was fucking...
John?
No, I don't listen to our show. How would I know?
Oh, Jesus. Tits. I'm telling you.
There were tits? Then I would know.
It wasn't-
Oh, God. Freaking Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
Oh, Moulin
It was my
Rouge.
movie.
Dick face.
He's bitter tonight. He's look feisty.
Yeah, well, fuck. To my defense, I fucking forgot it because I don't like Moulin Rouge. You have no excuse.
I almost feel like
Exactly.
singing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm touching myself.
What did you guys think of Cuckoo Pants and Kidman as a pair?
No believability at all.
I thought that it was palpable. You could tell that there was charisma, energy, charm between the two of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what Ron Howard and producing company was banking on.
Yep.
And yeah, you can feel it, definitely. And out of all of Cuckoo Pants' performances, this one rates up there with one I'm not a huge fan of. And it's the accent.
Yeah.
You know,
But neither are the Irish. About his accent in this movie, him and Nicole Kidman. This movie has become somewhat of a cult classic back in Ireland because they like to watch it and laugh at their attempts at the accents.
that's funny. You have an Australian and American playing Irish.
Mm-hmm.
So Ron Howard did also emphasize, in particular, one scene, the natural charm that the two have with each other, and it's the scene where Tom Cruise is unconscious on the bed with a bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and Ron Howard was not content with the reaction from Nicole, so without telling her, he told Cruise, "Lose the shorts." So when she lifts up the bowl, she's actually looking at Cruise's stuff.
So that's a genuine reaction.
Yes, and he kept it in the movie.
That's awesome. I will look at that scene in a whole different light. Actually, I was wondering because we know what kind of actor Cuckoo Pants is, right? I mean, he'll jump out of a fucking plane. Showing his schlong is probably no big deal for him.
I wouldn't think so.
So that's funny.
And the guy's in this movie, he's freaking built.
Yeah, he really
He
is.
is cut. He is cut.
That's one thing I have to give him credit for is he really butched up for this movie.
Did anyone else from this cast jump out at you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I knew Cole Meany from Star Trek Next Generation, so I was content at the time to see him in there.
I love him when they throw him in just in random parts in movies.
Yeah, I really do too. I like him in Gone in 60 Seconds.
And there's a movie that he's the bad guy.
This one?
What was that movie that he was like the villain?
Like the villain?
Or he was a villain. I can't remember what it was, but I like him in a lot of things.
He was fun in Con Air. It wasn't a big part.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one I'm thinking of is Con Air.
What did I say?
Gone in 60 Seconds.
He wasn't in Gone in 60 Seconds. I was thinking Con Air.
Yeah, which is another
Nicolas
movie.
Cage, man.
Which is another movie I would love for it to be in the helmet. I would
Listeners?
love to do Con Air. But really, I can't think of too many other people that really stood out in this movie. Gibson, he was okay. I never really felt like he was, a horrible bad guy, maybe when burning down the house. But other than that,
That's not bad enough.
no, because he just was an asshole.
You know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Billy Zane's character from Titanic.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Cut from the same cloth.
Right. I thought he was your typical period piece, mustache twirling antagonist.
Yes. The guy
So-
who would tie a girl to train tracks.
Yes. I thought the entire cast was believable. The setting was what it was. And yeah.
Hey, Donnie boy, are we ready to do a wee bit of trivia?
Yikes.
Oh, yeah, me boy. Let's trivia it on. Welcome to another edition of Master Movie Trivia. I am your reigning champ. You may call me the champ. I have compiled 5 questions and 5 questions only to test your knowledge on the movie we are reviewing. Each question could be worth multiple points, so if you know the answer, say it. And please wait until I finish each question. Let us begin. Question number 1. What is a reoccurring symbol of Shannon's proximity? A horseshoe.
Yes, the
A
horseshoe
horseshoe.
that falls into that. Yeah.
Huh.
In the beginning in the stable, and then when they're on the land race.
Yeah, and they're in the territory.
Yes. Question number 2. Why is Shannon's pay docked at the chicken factory?
For saying bad things to the boss, for insulting him.
Talking back.
For talking shit.
That's one
That's right.
day.
Yeah.
You want to go for 2?
It reminded me of the Breakfast Club. You
Yeah.
want another one? Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 3. How much money do Kelly and Burke put on Joseph to win against the Italian?
200.
Tied. Well done. Question number 4. What time does the land race start?
Noon.
Bonus question. What color is Joseph's land flag?
Green.
A little bit ahead of you. And question number 5. What other movie has Brendan Gleeson and Tom Cruise been in? Brendan Gleeson was the cop hassling Joseph in the street toward the beginning of the film. Here's a hint. The 3 guys have reviewed it.
Still don't know. Edge of Tomorrow.
I was going to say Edge of Tomorrow.
Bam! Pulls it out of the air. But you don't know who Brendan Gleeson is, do you?
No idea.
He's the general. When Tom Cruise goes in and they have to kidnap them, he's also in Braveheart. And you know him when you saw him.
I know.
He's
He's
really
saying the general. I know who you're saying.
in Far and Away. He's the cop that's hassling him, and he's super thin and super young. And I had to watch the credits to make sure that was him. So, well done, Professor. Well done. You are one step closer to movie immortality.
Well, thank goodness there was a clue.
In Ireland in 1892, when tenant farmers worked the land they could never own and paid unfairly high rents to their wealthy landlords, Joseph Donnelly dreamed of owning his own land. After his father dies, their family home is burned down by their landlord, Daniel Christie's men, due to unpaid rent and facing eviction. Joseph travels to Daniel's home to kill him in revenge, but he only injures himself. Daniel's wife, Nora, and his daughter, Shannon, nurse Joseph back to health so he can be hanged for the attempted murder. Nora tries to mold Shannon into a refined lady, but Shannon often rebels. She reveals to Joseph that she aspires to go to America, where land is being given away for free. When Joseph tries to flee the Christie's home, he gets into a confrontation with Stephen Chase, the Christie's financial manager, who challenges Joseph to a duel. The next morning, Shannon runs away from home, convinces Joseph to come with her as her servant and protector, and saves him from the duel. So this movie opens up and we get
A scroll.
automatic reading. But what I liked about it was it read it for us.
Yeah, what's the point?
I don't know, kind of to set the tone and what we were about to see, I suppose.
Yeah, but why is it read to us?
Give us a taste of an Irish accent.
I guess.
Maybe not trusting the audience enough to want to read it. I, for one, appreciated it. But that's just me. And then we get the sweeping shot of Ireland.
We're over the water, and eventually we come up onto the cliff, and now a village is revealed below us. Then we are down on the streets.
And we're introduced to Donnelly Sr. and his buddy, and they're all in a pub, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of hanging out.
Which they sing. I don't know if you caught, but they're singing a song in the bar that later on Joseph is singing.
Yeah.
In another bar.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the scene in Lord of the Rings when they all got to the prancing pony.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways.
And then we are taken out to the countryside. And then we see Joseph. He's out on a farm. He's trying to get a donkey to do his bidding, but that's not working out worth a darn.
Right.
And then his burly brothers are making fun of him.
Just typical brotherly love.
Why don't you go fuck a goat and improve your love life?
And then when we cut back to the tavern, one of the landlords is coming through in a horse and carriage, and people are tripping.
They are angry.
Pissed off because it's the whole... they're going to tax or they got to pay rent or be evicted. And it's just that whole thing that's been going on for years. And a riot kind of breaks out. And in the midst of it, Donnelly Sr., he falls and he injures himself.
Doesn't he get all that concrete and stuff comes down on him?
Yeah. And so definitely a head wound.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells his buddy Chaffee or whatever the fuck his name was, Take me to my boys. Take me home.
Dante Duff.
Thank you. And so we cut back to the farm, and the boys are fighting, and Dante Duff comes, and he's bringing the dad on the cart. I thought it was interesting when they get him inside, and Tom Cruise's character is all, sad and feeling it. The other two just didn't give a fuck.
They're just standing there.
What the heck? That's your dad.
I know. This is the bit where Joseph's dad dies, but then comes back.
Yeah, and that was a weird camera shot of him going up.
Yeah, and
his soul.
And I get it. That's exactly how I took it. And then to come back down, I think it was meant for comedic relief, maybe, or levity, perhaps. But maybe he just fell asleep.
I felt like the point was of having his spirit leave the body, like as the camera, was just so we could see it again at the end of the movie and relate it instantly back to the beginning of the movie.
Oh, like a setup?
Yeah. Now, do you call that a callback, or would you call that, was it foreshadowing of this is how Tom Cruise is going to end the movie?
I would call it a callback.
A callback?
Yeah. And so Dad dies for real this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the camera takes us up out of the building and turns up to the sky, and you look at the clouds and the sun shining. Oh, I guess he really is gone.
Right.
But before that, we do get a little piece of foreshadowing when the father says to his son, they have the whole conversation about, one day, Joseph is going to own his own piece of land. The father's like, you own your own piece of land, and I will be smiling down on you from heaven.
Yeah.
So obviously that's where this movie is going, is that Joseph's pursuit now has to be to own his own piece of land.
Right. He wants to be a farmer, and he wants to raise crops and animals and all that. So, yeah. But in the meantime, he's pissed off.
He's got some murdering to do.
Right. He becomes Captain Moonlight, and
we get the little funeral procession.
And then what's his face comes in. He rides up on a funeral procession as someone just died, and he tells them all, look, you don't have to talk to me if you don't want to, fuckers, but whoever owns this land or whoever's renting this from us is past due, and I'm going to burn your roof down.
Do you know who Captain Moonlight apparently is a reference to?
No.
Apparently it's a reference to a real historical figure known for being a Irish outlaw and folk hero. His name was Andrew George Scott, born 1842, and he was originally a church minister before turning to a life of crime. Famous for his daring robberies and defiance of the colonial authorities. And eventually he got hung. But anyway, he was a folk hero.
Kind of like Robin Hood, but different.
Yeah.
And so after his house burns down, they're at the pub. And this is where Joseph decides, I'm going to kill the Christies.
And you notice nobody tells him, no, it's not a good idea.
No, because they all probably want it as well.
Yeah, they all go find him a gun.
And he's talking to Dante Duff, and he's saying, I want to kill this fucker. I want to, get some revenge. And Dante's like, all right, let's fucking do it. I'll give you a gun and all that. But what I like about the bit is, I think he tells Joseph, you don't want to mention this. You don't want to mention this out loud. People are going to think you are going crackers, right? Mm-hmm. But the next shot, Cruise is walking out, and they're all calling him Captain Moonlight.
Because everybody knows.
Because Dante Duff couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, they're sending him off with all these well wishes, and there's a sense of jolliness, and they're cheering for him. Mm-hmm. It's like, good grief.
Well, yeah, they want him to succeed. They don't want to pay the taxes or the rent anymore either.
Yeah.
And if they kill the landlord, problem solved. And why not let this kid do it because he wants to fucking do it? And so he travels, and we get
by donkey.
We get a montage of him traveling, which I thought at the time, it's a bit much.
And every time like they did that montage and you see him riding the donkey, all I kept thinking was, donkey!
Oh, from Shrek?
Yeah, they should have made it like a talking donkey.
No. And he ends up at a
pub, I guess?
Or an inn or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's having his pint, and in walks this gentleman, if you will.
Christie, right?
Yeah. But we don't know that at first.
Yeah.
He's lavishly dressed, and he's gregarious and in good spirits, and offers to buy everybody a shot of whiskey.
And everybody's instantly in a good mood. And then we find out that it's the landlord, Christie.
Daniel Christie.
What'd you guys think of the bit where Cuckoo Pants finds out and then he follows him?
I was curious how, the first time I saw it, how his character is going to react to this. Because it's his good fortune that he has stumbled into him, and the opportunity to follow him and get him.
Right.
And so I thought that, it's going to be a curious thing to see if he actually tries to do it, if he has the steel to do it.
And I kind of thought that as well. He doesn't come across as a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that and I don't remember what his first name is, Christy. He came off as a really likable guy from the start. I mean, everybody in the bar liked him. The way he talked to, Captain Cuckoo Pants or Captain Moonlight, the way he talked to him, he just seemed like a guy you wouldn't want to murder, that there's got to be more to the story. He doesn't seem like this mean landlord guy.
No, but in Cuckoo Pants' defense, he doesn't know any better.
I know.
And
But I'm talking about from the audience's point of view of, we already like this guy.
right. Well, they do that on purpose.
Mhm.
So when the moment you hear his name, you have the same reaction as Cuckoo Pants, right?
Yep.
Like, oh,
Yep.
that's kind of a kick to the nuts.
Yep.
And so Cuckoo Pants follows him out, and Christy's all drunk and is, swaying back and forth. I thought it was interesting, or maybe kind of telling, that when Christy was standing still and taking a piss and Cuckoo Pants was getting ready to shoot him, it's like something was always getting in the way to make that happen. Because I kept thinking, well, how hard is it to shoot this fucking guy?
He could have just walked up and strangled him.
Or something, right? But there was always something there, or some kind of action that prohibited him from doing it. Like when the donkey takes off and pulls him out of position.
I got the feeling, even though, he wasn't really a murderer, so he wanted to do it in an honorable way. And like the way he ended up doing it, which was calling out and explaining why I'm shooting you.
Yeah. So eventually he follows Christy to his estate.
Mm-hmm. And I think he's awed by the estate.
Absolutely. I mean, he comes from this little rinky-dink shack, and then now it's like a castle almost.
Is this where he hides in the barn or whatever?
Yeah. And
The
so
stable?
he misses his opportunity to kill Christy, and so he falls asleep in the barn.
It's the next morning.
And we hear some horse hooves.
Mm-hmm.
Pitter patter.
There you go. And it's Shannon. We are introduced to Shannon, and we are immediately told by her mother, I saw you galloping out there, young lady. Proper ladies don't gallop.
Yeah, and she comes across as, from the get-go, she is somebody that is, if you will, kind of sort of bucking her status in life.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely questioning it. She doesn't want to be the status quo. She wants to live a modern life and do modern things. And, she has aspirations.
She's a rebel.
Totally. And you can completely tell that about her from when she comes into the stables. She doesn't act like a lady. She just starts to unwind and take it easy. And this is what catches Joseph's eye.
This scene reminded me of another movie with Antonio Banderas.
Zorro.
Yeah, exactly. That barn stable scene.
Yeah, Zorro did it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole introduction to Shannon reminded me of Kate Winslet's character as well in Titanic.
Mhm.
I saw a lot of parallels there. So James Cameron must have really liked Far and Away. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm. And so, of course, she does the whole fake out where she hears something, leaves, but then comes back with the pitchfork through the stable door or whatever it is.
And this is where we get the first of the horseshoe.
Mm-hmm.
And so she incapacitates
That's gotta
Joseph.
hurt.
Oh, a pitchfork to the thigh?
And all I kept thinking is they clean up horse poop with that, and it just got it stuck into him.
Oh, I didn't even think about it that way.
That's gonna get infected.
Even if it was just hay, too.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Well, clearly, because it hit him really quick and Cuckoo Pants is out.
Yeah, he goes down, and she books it. Father!
And so Father comes out and
Followed by Mother, and there's a couple people on the grounds that are now paying attention.
and they're like, what's going on? What's going on?
This was something that I felt like, I think even the first time I saw it, you could see it coming. You knew when Joseph aimed that gun, when he comes out of the stable and he points the gun and he says, I'm Joseph, blah, 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 and, you're evil landlord, blah, 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 and you need to die. You knew that gun was going to backfire.
I was surprised by it. I didn't think it was going to go off or something. He definitely was not killing Christy right then and there, but I thought it was kind of funny that it backfired and it blew him backwards. What'd you think?
Yeah, it literally backfires on him. And, having that happen, I thought it was, I was surprised that he didn't at least try the gun before this.
Yeah.
I think
just
he
try
only
it
had
out.
one bullet.
Because it was a very tired looking rifle when Duff gave it to him.
Yep.
And so for him not to even practice, boy, I don't know.
Well, you got what you got, right?
Yep.
And so the Christies naturally come to his aid, and they take care of him. And this is the bit where we get Mother and Shannon in the room, and Mother has to change him.
Yeah, he's unconscious.
Yep. And they cover up his schlong with a bucket.
A bowl.
That's what it was. I'm giving Cuckoo Pants a lot of credit there.
Do you think they used that same bowl at dinner that night?
No, that was to wash his face in.
Oh.
So he starts to heal, and this is where
Mother's having a tea party as well. And the tea party is another reflection of the life that Shannon wants nothing to do with, because she sees this, I think, as her future.
Yeah.
yes.
We get a strong indication when it's like, Shannon, could you play the piano? And she's like, no.
Yeah, you get the sense of her rebellion. And we also get to meet Stephen Chase properly. Her beau, I guess, or clearly he loves her, but she's like,
kind of courting her.
Yeah.
You kind of almost get that it feels like an arranged marriage. It's like the parents have picked this guy out, and now he's allowed to court her.
Oh, that's something that was very common back then. So yeah, they did a good job of making you feel that. Because when I first saw him, I said, oh yeah, that's totally the villain. Look at his fucking mustache.
Exactly.
Right? So Shannon goes on and plays the piano, but she starts playing the classics, and then she goes into the modern music from America.
Apparently, she started out playing the Moonlight Sonata, which was, they chose it because of the nickname for Tom Cruise character, Captain Moonlight.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And it's during this time that it is revealed to us through Mother that he is responsible for all of Mr. Christie's business affairs. And so this is telling us, the audience, that Daniel has no idea how these tenants of his are being treated.
Right.
He even goes on to say later, you had every right to want to murder me because I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, we're getting to that part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because as this tea party is going on, Joseph gets better, manages to get dressed.
Yep.
I like how he has to punch his way out of the room.
Yeah.
And that goes to show us again, he's a fucking puncher, and he's about to prove it.
Well, he's a scrapper.
Yeah. Well, and, we saw that at first with the brothers, because with the brothers, where they were tumbling around on that hillside, it looked like that there was some serious fighting. Serious fighting. But it turns out, they're just messing around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it definitely toughens him up.
Sure does.
Yeah. And so Cuckoo Pants starts coming down the stairs, and he's noticed, and everyone starts freaking out. And this is where Chase and him have a confrontation. And immediately, after it's kind of subdued, it's duel, sunrise.
Well, the whole thing is he knocks, was it Chase? He knocks him onto his ass and then spits on him.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm thinking there's no way this guy who's got such an ego, so much honor, is going to take that.
Oh, fuck no. That's why the first words out of his mouth is duel, sunrise.
And
I think I'm going to start saying that to you guys.
I almost felt like, did he spit into the guy's mouth?
Oh, it looked like it.
Oh, it looked horrible.
It did. But, Cuckoo Pants is a method actor. He's got to get into that shit. So.
And it's also during this time that Joseph calls out. He says, "You're the man that burned my father's house."
Right. And so they subdue Joseph. They take him back upstairs because he's got to await the duel. And later that night, a ladder shows up at his fucking window, and it's Shannon. So.
Shh, I'm running away.
I want you to come with me. That was horrible. I went into Australian.
Yeah. And Joseph, he doesn't know what to make of Shannon.
You can be my servant.
Yeah. Yeah. And her protector. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. He doesn't. She's the daughter of the man who had his family evicted. And she stabbed him in the fucking leg with a pitchfork.
Mm-hmm.
But he does go on to say later on in the movie, it was love at first sight.
Well,
for both of them.
Come on.
Anyway, so, she sums it up. She says, boy, you wanted land? If that's what you want, then come with me.
And this is where we get the plot of they're giving away free land in America.
No. Which he, of course, thinks is utter bullshit.
Right. He's like, fuck that. I'll take my chances.
Well, he also
Good luck, Shannon.
He's also the whole idea of, I was born in Ireland and I will die in Ireland. And she's like, yep, you'll die at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because the duel is coming.
Yeah, and he's going to kick your ass because I've seen the way you shoot.
I was surprised that he refused her offer.
I'm not too surprised. He's got a lot of honor there, a lot of pride.
He wants to fight the guy, I think, in the beginning.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm thinking, how come they just don't have fisticuffs? Why a duel? But we'll find out.
Because that's a gentlemanly way.
Is it? I don't know. Maybe I'm not much of a
Well,
gentleman.
the thing that I thought about, the duel the next morning, Chase even comes with his family's dueling pistols. So it's like he's had those ready for any time that he needs to duel.
Well, among social elites, dueling pistols, it's not uncommon for people of status to have a set of dueling pistols.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that is usually bantered around, that is rarely escalating to a duel. Mostly people back down, but they have a second. So when Daniel comes in, he offers to be his second. So both sides have a second, and then there's a whole ethics and code of honor and a certain way that a duel is supposed to proceed. And like I said, it almost never escalates to a duel.
And this is kind of important storytelling right here as well, because Daniel actually feels bad because he didn't know what happened to Cuckoo Pants's. He doesn't know the circumstances. All he knows is what he was told, and that he was told that I burnt your fucking house down. I'm fucking sorry, man. I didn't know that was happening. And he offers to be his second, and
I love how the two of them, he immediately starts walking with him and talking to him.
Yeah, and Cruz looks at him and says, like, yes, sir, and thank you, sir. And it was heartfelt, and it was like they were making amends, because Cuckoo Pants should have died.
What I did like is when he got to what I think it was 10 paces, and the guy, and he calls out 10 or whatever, that Christy runs away like a little child. He's like,
he's like, who? And then he scurries off.
He recognizes where he's at. Yeah. Oh shit, I'm fucked.
And then that fog,
could that be any more convenient for a duel?
Totally.
Yeah. And look how Cuckoo Pants says, I can't see you. Well, I can see you.
Yeah, and he got fucking lucky. But just before Cuckoo Pants gets shot in the face,
Shannon shows up.
And away they go. On a ship bound for America, Shannon and Joseph meet Mr. McGuire, who confirms Shannon's story about land being given away for free in Oklahoma. He adds that once landing in America, they will have to travel thousands of miles to get there and must claim their desired land in a race. Shannon divulges that she has a collection of silver spoons that will cover the expenses needed to get to Oklahoma. Upon their arrival in Boston, McGuire is shot in the street and Shannon loses her spoons in the chaos. Mike Kelly, an Irish ward boss, finds jobs for Joseph and Shannon and gives them a room to rent. Joseph also becomes a regular in bare-knuckle boxing matches at Kelly's club to make extra cash. Over the following weeks, Joseph and Shannon struggle to earn money and adapt to their new living situation. Romantic tension flares between them, especially after Grace, a dancer at Kelly's club, shows interest in Joseph, making Shannon jealous. So they're on a boat. They're headed to America. They are disguised as, a well-to-do lady with her manservant.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you guys think of this bit?
Oh, I enjoyed it because, it's clear that Joseph does not like this at all.
Oh, it's eating at him.
The irony of this scene is earlier on, we get the impression from Shannon that she doesn't like the way the mother dresses her. She didn't like having that top buttoned, and didn't like being told what to do. But here, she's doing the exact same thing to Joseph. She's dressed him up in a suit, making him wear a tie, and telling him what to do.
Well, yes, that is true, but I don't think Shannon necessarily likes it. That they have to do it to uphold appearances.
Oh, I thought she loved it.
No, maybe.
I
Who
got the
knows? Like
impression-
breaking him down a little bit.
Well, that and at that point in this storyline, just like Gibson, or whatever his name was,
Mr. McGuire.
Mr. McGuire, they see, there's tiers of people in Ireland. There's the top tier, and then there's this bottom tier are just people to be used and abused and thrown away. And she doesn't quite see him yet as having any worth beyond just helping her as her kind of servant at this point. So I kind of thought she didn't see any really real value in him.
I would disagree.
And except for what he could do for her.
Well, I mean, that's value.
Yeah.
Are they falling in love yet? Probably not. Is she still mesmerized by the sight of his schlong? Probably. That's why she's keeping him around.
Well, that's why he's a manservant. He can serve her.
Well, yeah. So there's value.
I thought Mr. McGuire was way too convenient.
Oh, yeah.
Way too convenient for Shannon.
Saw that coming a mile away.
And I felt like we were supposed to see that, how shifty he was and how obviously he was a con man, but it was to show how naive she really was. That she couldn't see it because she knew nothing of the real world.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And so they get to Boston.
They meet up with Mr. McGuire again.
And
then Shannon and Joseph say their goodbyes and they part ways.
And in the meantime, McGuire gets shot.
And surprisingly, all the spoons come flying out of his jacket.
My mother's spoons.
And she just stands there and watches as everyone just grabs them.
They gone.
Yeah,
And
and-
she robbed.
But at least he was able to get her bag. Joseph ran and captured her bag.
Yeah, because here comes Joseph to the rescue.
Here I come to save the day.
And so now it's on Joseph to kind of become the protector.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And so they go into, they go into Kelly's bar?
It's like the burlesque club bar kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where people fresh off the boat go into.
Yeah, because we had been told by a little kid about where Irish people have to go to.
By Screech.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because Joseph's like, all right, fucker, where do I go again? And so they go in and
it's something I think I really didn't catch the first time I saw this movie, but the way it works is his name Donnelly, or what is his name?
Kelly.
He brings people in, gives them, helps them get on their path to citizenship so that they can then give him their votes once they're citizens.
Yeah.
And so he uses them, that's his reciprocation, uses them to get things passed and get people elected.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
So we come into the place and we see that there's a fight going on, and doggone it, that was some tough hitting.
And Shannon standing there,
Well, Captain Cuckoo Pants first tells her to stand back.
but she doesn't listen. So Shannon's standing there, and when Kelly gets hit, his blood goes all over her face, and it shocks her, which shocks him, and then he gets knocked the fuck out.
Well, she lets out like a little scream or something.
Or he was startled
Yeah.
by a woman being that close in that capacity. And so the other dude knocks him down, and he says, I fucking hate to lose.
Well, he got a tooth knocked out or broken.
Yeah.
He got a tooth broken.
Yeah. And then, so that's when they meet, and he says, Cuckoo Pants doesn't fight here, does he?
Yes, he does. Well, first, the guy goes through all the things of, here, I'm going to get you a job. I'm going to get you a place to stay. Here's how it's going to work. You're going to vote when I tell you to vote. And while that's going on,
People are harassing
are
her.
harassing her with a stick and trying to lift up her dress.
Oh,
And-
that's right.
And he turns around and goes and kicks the shit out of the guy with the stick,
That's right.
who's a big guy.
Yep. And so that shows Kelly, this kid's a scrapper, and I can make some money.
And he was the guy that he knocked out was the guy that knocked down Kelly.
That's what I thought. That's why I thought it happened later.
He says,
but no, it
anybody
must not.
who can beat up the guy who beat up me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so they get a room, or they're
Just
taking
one
up to
room.
their one room, and they're both like, no, this ain't going to work. And still, Shannon's like, I cannot have this. She still hasn't quite gotten broken down yet.
And he's like, you just thank them for what they're giving us.
That's right.
And it's $1 a month or something like that.
A week.
And he's like, well, what's your relationship? She's my sister.
And they're like, oh, my ass.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we cut back home, and we have Captain Moonlight burning down the Christie mansion.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wondered if they were yelling the Captain Moonlight thing and were burning down the mansion because they've all figured that Joseph must have been killed. And now this is what sparked that riot? Or do you think it was just the buildup of the tension?
Oh, no, I fully believe they think that Joseph got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And they were coming to avenge him. Because they make it a point to show us Dante. Right? Dante's part of that crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I took it.
Yeah,
They
and
thought
the
it
fact
was
that they were chanting, Captain Moonlight.
Yeah. Well, but like you said, Captain Moonlight was a folk hero.
Yeah.
So it wasn't brought up just for cuckoo pants.
And then we also get a reveal that she's been writing letters to Dad. And so Dad knows where she is.
I like how he sneaks the drink and she's like, are we going to pretend that I don't see it or I don't know what's going on? And he says, yeah, I like it better that way. And she's like, yeah, me too. And so, yeah, daughter's been writing Dad. He kept it from Mom. And just as they're about to get into the shit, their house gets burned down, and luckily Chase is there to save them. And of course, naturally saves her picture. And we're told that now the parents know that she is in Boston and she's been there for many months. So we know the passage of time, and their house just burned down. So what the fuck? Let's go to America. We knew that was coming.
It's also convenient for us to know, or for them to know exactly where to go, because any other way you would have questioned, how would they know where she was? Well, they got a straight shot to her.
And in the meantime, we find out that Shannon works at a chicken factory.
With Clint Howard.
I love Clint Howard in this.
Yeah, come on.
Right.
There he is.
Nicole's at the chicken factory with Clint Howard. And I like the bit where she talks shit and she gets into it because she's feisty. And you can see Joseph a little ways from her looking at her going, fucking knock it off. Shut up. Right. But now she's like, why don't you go and just make it for Friday too?
But I like how Joseph says to the guys right afterwards, see, she's got a sting.
We get to see their little nighttime routine, if you will. And their little nighttime routine, we see that they're sneaking peeks of each other. And we can tell that things are starting to get a little amorous between the two. That they're reluctantly admitting to themselves that they do seem to have feelings for each other.
Right.
And so I think this is where it shows that things are turning a little bit towards they don't want to admit it, but they do like the other person. And so this is going to be a compelling point because this is what's going to keep them together.
We're also getting throughout this whole time a quick kind of, I don't want to say a montage, but a view of Shannon is adapting. Her walls are coming down and she is becoming more towards Joseph's level. But you're right, this nighttime routine, they eventually get in bed and then they start talking and they're just kind of going back and forth. And she's like, am I beautiful? He's like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen with my eyes and probably will ever see. She's like, okay, thanks.
And then she goes to sleep.
And he's, of course...
He's all worked up.
But he's got to go work off some tension. So he goes down and starts kicking the shit out of everybody at the burlesque club.
And he becomes a boxer.
Yeah.
I like the way they do it. They draw the line and you have to have your toe on the line while you're fighting. I forgot that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of clever. And he's fucking good, right? He can dodge. He's quick. He's a little fucking scrapper.
Well, they kind of talk about it throughout the next few scenes over time in that he brought something new to this boxing that nobody did. The old boxers would just stand there and punch each other.
And take it.
He brought in dodging and spinning around and not getting hit.
I call that common sense.
And so...
Should be.
Yeah, exactly. And so apparently that wasn't against the rules. And so that's why he was winning all these fights, is he just wasn't getting as beat up as they were.
Right.
So he's brought home at the end of the night by Grace. And turns out he made $4, which is some good money.
I was thinking that's a month's rent.
That's what they tell us.
Yeah.
That's a month's rent
Yeah.
that he got for fighting one night.
Right.
And with that, Grace is also curious about him, and she's asking Shannon about him. And I think that we, the audience, are starting to see that Shannon, I don't know if I want you dating him.
She's a little jealous.
I think so.
She's a little jealous.
Yeah, at this point, too, we're wondering, is this girl smitten with him because he's cute and she likes him, or she's smitten with him because now she sees he can, he's going to go places.
I think she was smitten with him before because she notices him when they walk in.
Next, we have a little fighting montage, and I will say that the fighting camera shots, there's some really pretty camera work here on some of these fighting sequences. There's one where it starts up high and then it swings down onto the floor. It looks really good, and I really appreciate the wide shots that we get. The fact that Cuckoo Pants is somebody that isn't necessarily a big guy, I think works in his favor to have, him against, beefier, burlier, taller opponents.
I thought the exact same thing because Tom Cruise is infamously a short guy. And basically it made, everybody that he fought look so much bigger and tougher because he's such a short guy.
Sure. Agreed. And we also are now seeing that Cuckoo Pants is kind of becoming a celebrity.
Get some new duds.
He likes his hats. And Shannon's a wee bit jealous.
Well, it's almost like their roles are started to reverse. He's getting a little snobby. He's getting a little,
absolutely.
He needs to own 7 hats and a fine suit when he's supposed to be saving money for Oklahoma. And this was not the plan. Their plan was to get going, not to stick around and have him be this big shot. And he's talking to these people on the streets and everywhere he goes, real cocky.
And then we see him meeting up with Kelly, and he is introduced to another business gentleman, and he wants him to fight an Irishman. And we have Joseph getting a little too high and mighty, and Kelly,
pulling him back down to place.
Yeah.
And we're also shown that Bork, the other Irishman, has taken a kind of a liking to Shannon. Mm-hmm. And guess what? That's coming back too, guys. One night, Joseph discovers that Shannon has gone to Kelly's club to dance burlesque and earn extra money herself. When he storms in to take her home, Kelly and the other Irishmen there beg him to fight an Italian contender, promising to split the $200 winnings with Joseph if he triumphs. This would be enough to get him and Shannon to Oklahoma, and hence, Joseph agrees. Joseph appears to be winning the fight until he noticed one of his backers groping Shannon. He pushes through the crowd to free her, but is pushed back into the ring where he is defeated by a sucker punch while distracted. As payback for the loss, Kelly and his men take all of the money the couple had been saving and throw Shannon and Joseph out onto the streets. Cold and starving, the pair stay in a seemingly abandoned house. They share a tender moment and a kiss before the owners of the house return and chase them away, shooting Shannon in the back. Joseph, knowing the Christies are looking for her in Boston, brings Shannon to where they are staying. Deciding Shannon will be better off cared by them, Joseph leaves despite his feelings for her, heading west to the Ozarks on his own and finding work laying train track. Months pass, and one day he sees a wagon train. Knowing it's headed for Oklahoma, Joseph abandons the railroad and joins the wagon train, arriving in time for the land run of 1893.
When Shannon and Joseph argue, I was unclear at first why they were arguing, but eventually it's revealed that Shannon doesn't like him fighting.
Right, and she's afraid he's going to get hurt, and she wants him to stop, and he's like, fuck, I ain't stopping, I'm the shit.
And it's good money, good money.
And she's like, all right, fucker, you know what? Anything you can do, I can do better.
Well, he also really tries to show off his ego, his snobbiness by telling her, tell me you like my hat. And she's like, you're not wearing a hat. Well, tell me you like my hat anyway. You're not wearing a hat. And so she gets really pissed off that he's got this attitude.
Yeah.
And that's when he basically says, I'm making all this money. She's like, well, I can make the money just as easy.
And so she goes out and she becomes a burlesque dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And he finds out because he comes home and he's looking for something. And it's
But
the
he's-
little kid that tells him.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be at the fight, and the kid came to, come on, you're supposed to be fighting tonight.
Right. And so he goes over there and he's trying to get Shannon off the stage going, what the fuck are you doing? Don't do this. I can fight, but you can't do that.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to fight the Italian because, as he told the boss guy, I fight when I want to fight who I want to fight.
Right. He's being an egomaniac.
And then, of course, the bet comes up.
And now Shannon's on board, right? They're talking about splitting the winnings of $200. And that would get him to fucking Oklahoma.
And Shannon, she's telling him, that would be enough money for us.
Yeah. And he's like, us?
Yeah, that was, and that's a pivotal moment for Joseph, because there's feelings that are being revealed back to him.
And an inspiring moment for him, because after that moment, he's like, fuck yeah, let's go fight this bastard. And so we get the Italian introduced, Joseph's introduced, and the fight begins. And Joseph seems to be holding his own a little bit, taking a couple hits, but, ducking and weaving.
And I don't know if it's just the guy's stupid ego or whatever, but you've got, $400 on the line, and he decides, now I'm going to start fucking around with this guy's sister while he's in the boxing match.
Oh, you're talking about the dude?
The dude on, the boss guy.
Oh, fuck him, dude.
He's the one that fucked up.
Well, yeah, but he thought he could get away with it.
Yeah,
he just thinks it's his sister. And, he did what any guy in power in that time would do. So Cruz goes over there and they all push him back into the ring, and then he just gets fucking sucker punched and he's out for the count.
I figured he got like a rib broke right there.
Yeah, and we all knew it was coming.
And I felt like it was a whole Lionheart.
Oh my God, I thought the same fucking thing. Listeners, Lionheart, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yep.
Yeah, so he fucking loses. And now Kelly is pissed because they just lost all this fucking money.
So Joseph wakes up and he is outside, and he's face down in the dirt or whatever it is. But he starts to hear people looking. They're looking for this girl. And then he spots Chase. He's like, oh, shit.
They know he's in town.
And the officer shows him the picture of Shannon. And Chase is standing right behind him.
Yep. And I remember thinking, who dressed him and threw him out?
That's what I was thinking, too. Why is he wearing a shirt again?
Yeah, why they get him dressed? They're so nice, those Irish. And so now Cuckoo Pants knows that the Christies are in town. They're looking for Shannon.
And we hear several times, number 6, Jefferson Street.
Right. To tell us that's where they're staying.
Yep.
And so we cut to the apartment, and now Kelly and his goons,
They throw him out.
They
they got to take all their money first.
They're taking everything.
Yep.
Fucking kicking them in the balls and throw them out on the street.
And it's starting to snow.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, because it's convenient.
Yeah, it's Boston. It's wicked cold.
It's wicked cold.
Wicked cold in Boston.
Boston.
Well, that's how we should have been doing this whole fucking time, yeah? Oh, that was horrible.
I have an issue with Joseph at this point because he's begging for somebody, please, we haven't eaten in 3 days. How come he hasn't revealed to Shannon Chase is here? Potentially his parents too.
Ego?
My gosh, they're starving and he's not telling her?
Because I think that, sorry, bud, I think that he feels like he can fend for her. He can protect her. He can take care of her. And he's going to do it by any means necessary. So, yes, ego and pride. That's probably what it is. That's what I chalk it up to.
I also chalk it up to she ran away from them. She didn't want to be part of that life. And by telling her at this point they're here, that would her resolve may have been so weakened, she might have run to them and regretted it later, and she'd probably never be able to get away again.
They end up breaking into a large fancy house that they think might be abandoned. But, looking at all that stuff on the table.
How the fuck is that abandoned?
How the hell is that abandoned? And there's a Christmas tree in there, too. How is that abandoned?
Totally. But he finds food.
And he's scarfing. But Shannon, I think that she is looking back on the life that she used to have.
Yeah. because of the nice things in the house, and it's making her reflect. And she's probably fucking starving and looking a bit ill.
Well, I also got the impression that, several times throughout this movie, Joseph's talking about his dreams and he's sharing his dreams with her. And at this point now, she's revealing to him, I have dreams too, and they involve you in a life like this.
Yeah.
That when we get our land, this is how we're going to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing their little pretend game.
Yeah. Can we pretend we're married?
Yeah. And this is where they
Kiss.
After their tender moment, the owners of the house come in and they're fleeing, and Shannon gets shot.
Dick move. Shooting.
In the back?
In the back.
Well, I don't know, 1839?
Yeah.
1842, I guess.
I guess. But
You think they're vagrants or bums or something?
or they've stolen something.
Totally. So, they got shot, or she gets shot. And so now Joseph does the only thing he can think of.
Yeah, there's only one. He has to make the sacrifice.
He has to take her home because he has nowhere else to take her.
I love how he pounds on the door and the housekeeper opens up. And first she sees him and she's like, no. And she closes the door on him.
And he stops it. And then Chase opens the door. And
Holy shit, she's been shot.
yeah. But he takes her in and he decides that he's got to leave.
Yeah, the best thing he could do is just get the hell out of there.
Yep.
Right.
Not to be a distraction.
Right. And now it's 8 months later.
Yeah, we're in the Ozark Mountains.
Quite the different setting from snowy Boston. Not city. Now we're in the Old West.
Yep. And it turns out he's a rail worker.
Which was a really dangerous job back then.
And so Cuckoo Pants is working on the railroad all the livelong day. And
He hears somebody talking about the land. No, that's not for me. I don't want that.
right.
And I think the reason why he doesn't want that is because
He doesn't have Shannon.
doesn't have Shannon.
Yeah.
And he's still dreaming about her.
Yes. Yes, he is. That kiss that they shared.
The magical kiss. Right before she was shot.
But then he has the other dream, which is about his father. And his father reminds him of
That's right.
what his original priorities were.
Get that fucking land, boy.
Yeah.
Get that fucking land. And so one day he's laying in the bunk or on the job. I don't know what it is, but they notice.
The train is stopped for water.
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you. He notices the wagon train and he finds out that they're going to Oklahoma
Yep.
for the land race. And so what does he do? Gets his shit
And he decides to go.
and he starts walking. I thought that was kind of admirable. He's walking and you have that big long line of people, and he wasn't the only one walking, but to walk that's got a dedication.
Mm-hmm.
They don't kick him out. They let him come along. Right? He's eating somebody's provisions.
He's probably helping them forage and probably helping them with little things here and there.
Well, I'm sure he's getting paid for the railroad, so he's probably got a little bit of money because ultimately he buys 2 horses,
Yeah.
and those can't be fucking cheap,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And Joseph being Joseph, I would imagine that he's saved money this whole 8 months that he's been working.
Mm-hmm.
So I buy it. Joseph finds Shannon, Stephen, and the Christies already in Oklahoma. Stephen, having seen Joseph talking to Shannon, threatens to kill him if he goes near her again. During the land race, Joseph outpaces everyone, catching up to Shannon and Stephen. But before Joseph can plant his claim flag, a fight breaks out between him and Stephen, ending with Joseph being crushed by Stephen's horse. Shannon runs to Joseph's side and rejects Stephen when he objects to her actions. Joseph professes his love for Shannon and seems to die in her arms, but is revived when Shannon reciprocates his love. They then drive his flag into the ground and claim their land together. Roll credits. So they're in Oklahoma, and Cuckoo Pants has to buy a horse, and so he gets 2 choices.
The green broke horse or the broken horse.
Right. And so he takes the more reliable horse, and
Right after this, he spots Shannon walking.
Well, he gets like the horseshoe. Doesn't the horseshoe thing happen again? And he
Yep.
sees it kind of as a sign.
he sees her.
And so it's revealed to us that the Christies are also here along with Stephen.
Right.
And with that, we find out that Stephen and Shannon are probably going to be married after they have their land.
Right. It's kind of an arranged thing, and it feels like that Shannon has just given up and
She's accepted it.
Accepted it, right.
Accepted her fate, even
Yes.
though it's not what she wants.
Right. And we find out that the race starts at noon, and this is the night before.
And Cuckoo Pants takes it as a kick to the crotch that she's even there. It's like his curse that, you know, this woman that he loves, you know, is everywhere where he can't have her. So, of course, he goes into the bar and starts drinking.
Right.
But we do have Shannon and Joseph briefly chat with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they exchange pleasantries, if you will, and eventually they do wish each other well.
Right.
And
And then they go their separate ways.
Right.
So Joseph goes to the bar, gets hammered.
Falls
and-
through the little bar screen.
Yeah. And now we are
Well,
at the race.
well, even
Or no. He comes out of the bar and his horse is dead.
Yes, and-
At first I thought someone stole it, but then when the camera pans down and it's still connected to the
Yeah.
trough.
and the guy says behind him, "That's the oldest horse I ever seen."
Yeah. And so now that with his horse is dead, we don't know what he's going to do.
Well,
And,
our first thought is he's going to go with the other horse.
maybe. I don't know if I thought that right away. I kind of thought, oh, he's fucked. And then we cut to the next day, and it's almost noon. Everybody's lined up, and we see a commotion, and we find out that, in fact, Cuckoo Pants has the cuckoo horse.
And we're also given a specific date, September 16th, 1893. And so this is something that apparently is, when I see that date like that, it's like, okay, I guess this is based on the actual event.
There was actually 5 different land runs that took place in Oklahoma. There was one in 1889, 1891, 1892, 1893, which is the year of this movie, and 1895. This one just so happened to be called the Cherokee Strip Land Run, and it was in northern Oklahoma. It was the largest of all the runs. It involved 6 million acres and 100,000 participants.
Wow.
So I thought that was just a crazy number. And the fact that these people have to race for it, and you see some of them are on these wagon train things that are not going to be able to make it on this rough land. The guy on the bicycle, they're going to compete with these people on horses.
Yeah, well, they thought it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell you. But the race, right before the race starts, one guy goes early.
Shoot that man.
Death? Death is the penalty for jumping the gun?
Yeah,
Well,
what's up with that?
That's a bit harsh.
Have you ever heard of, it's an Oklahoma term, the Sooners and the Boomer, or the Boomers and the Sooners?
Well, I know of the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yes, that actually derives from the people who actually participated in the race and started at the starting line were known as boomers. The people who cheated and snuck ahead and tried to plot out their land like her parents did, like Shannon's parents did, they were called the Sooners.
I kept thinking with Shannon's parents, those cheeky fuckers.
Yeah, cheaters.
So the race is on, and
I got to say, it's some pretty majestic camera work here showing the start, and I was impressed looking at all the different camera shots that we got, watching Joseph's horse just cruise by everybody else.
Well, he did. They said it, a green broke horse was probably one of the fastest horses.
I'd like to point out one other thing at the start. It's maybe 2 seconds where we get a shot of, it was at least one Native American. It might have been a couple of Native Americans together watching the start. And I'm thinking, man, that's a kick to your balls right there.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Man, because doggone it, that's exactly what, these people go through is somebody comes and takes your land and gives it away for free.
Right.
For free, and you can't even get it yourself.
And you can't even race for it. That's right. That's fucked up. Hey, America, man. It's the fucking country that was built.
Did you know that for that one scene, that race scene, there were 800 extras, 400 horses, and 200 wagons?
I believe it because this is right on the dawn of CGI. So all of this was practical.
Yeah.
And I kept feeling bad for the horses that would fall because they're real horses.
Yeah.
Fuckers. But Today, you'd have a digital horse.
I watched this movie just the other night with my dad, and right before this one scene, my dad said, "There's a scene coming up that there's no way they would get away with today with PETA and all of that, which is the punching of the horse."
Oh, I fucking love that scene.
It made me think of Blazing Saddles.
Oh my gosh, so good. I've no wish to fight you. Bam! Knocks the horse into submission. And so the race is on. They race. They get to their plot, and Chase and Joseph have to fight. And Joseph gets knocked down or falls on a rock. And now we have our callback to the beginning of the movie.
What did you think of the horses riding down that hill to the river?
Gutsy.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And Joseph goes down there, and Shannon kind of hesitates for a bit, but she makes it down just all right. I kept thinking when Shannon goes down, her dress is going to get all ruined.
Mm-hmm.
When we have Joseph, he's down, and we see that, there's blood behind his head. I am thinking the first time I see the movie, are they really going to kill him? Are they going to kill him?
I didn't think they were going to kill him. I thought they were going to call us back to the opening.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to do like a Harry Potter thing or something, that he was going to go to a big white room and there was going to be Dad, and Dad was going to be like, "Go back down there and get your land."
Oh, fuck that. We're already 2 hours and 20 minutes into this fucking thing. It's time for this to end.
It was pretty amusing how the camera goes up, and then we turn away from Cruz, and then we turn away from Joseph, and the camera abruptly stops as soon as Shannon says her feelings for him.
Right. So, yeah, he doesn't die, and they tell Chase off, and they plant the flag.
And then we get the end. Ugh.
Kind of abrupt after that big, long 2 hour and 20 minute buildup, the end. So, naturally, I just assume that they all live happily ever after.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and that's Ron Howard, right? I mean, he's going to give us a happy ending.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about with Stephen and Joseph being in this territory? They're going to be neighbors.
Maybe if Steven decides to stay around. I mean, Oklahoma's pretty big. And back then, I mean, we even saw it when people were riding by. People were shooting other people right there. So who's to say that Steven didn't go shoot mom and dad and take their waterfront property?
I assume he went right back to Ireland.
Oh, I don't. He seemed American to me.
No.
He didn't seem Irish at all.
I figured he'd want to have nothing to do with them. He wasn't interested in any property there. Otherwise, he would have taken the property. I figured he was just going to be on the next boat out.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll never know.
Never. It's one of those unanswerable questions.
Thank God.
Maybe the wheel will reveal.
Oh, alternate endings. And that was Far and Away.
So I mentioned earlier that when I first saw this movie, I had no problems with it. But then I did some research into kind of the history and the background of, the Oklahoma land race and all of that. And it brought up some issues for me that I'm bringing into this movie. So anybody who's familiar with the Oklahoma land race knows, and Professor and Don, you guys talked about this a little bit earlier, that land that people were racing for was basically taken from the Native Americans. Some of it was bought. Some of them, they were forcibly off. Some of them was, some of that land was taken via treaties, but every single time it was the Native Americans who got screwed or forced to give up that land. And they were made promises of they would get land of their own, where really they got the scraps that was left. And they were so spread out, it pretty much destroyed the Native American community. They were never the same after that. They didn't have the whole nation that they used to have. And so for me, just knowing that, and if you think about the whole story of this movie, Joseph, the Irish people felt like this land that they were living on and that they were working and that they had built up was their land. And here comes the landlords who are saying, pay us more or get the fuck out. And he's basically, his family is chased off his own land, just like these Native Americans were chased off of their own lands. But now we have Joseph fulfilling his dream of owning his own land at the expense of these Native Americans who were chased off their land. And I feel like in this kind of storyline, if if that was brought to his attention at some point in this movie, he wouldn't have taken that land, because he would have felt just like he did when he himself watched his own house be burnt down. You know, the fact of that it was a very negative thing of these people running and taking, and as you mentioned, Professor, it was a stage, and there were several Native Americans on the stage just sitting there watching as these people are just having a race to take their land. And to me, just knowing that, and knowing that there's such a negative stigma to this movie, makes it hard for me to root for Joseph and root for Shannon at the end of the movie to get their land, knowing that it's kind of a tainted land. And the reason why I bring that up, especially before we get into reviews, is back when we did The Greatest Showman Dawn, you gave it a lower rating specifically because there was a negative, stigmata towards P.T. Barnum and who he was in real life. In the fact that this movie portrayed him to be such a great guy and was a great thing and everything happened. But in real life, there were some stories of him not being such a great guy. My question to you is, knowing that this land race and Joseph getting his own piece of land was based off of some really negative, nasty things. I mean, there were thousands of Native Americans killed just being marched out of that territory. Getting out of just the Oklahoma territory. There was a thing called Trail of Tears where they had to be marched out, and a lot of them died. Horrible starvation, horrible deaths, and just to free up that land for them people to run in and take. Does that not affect how you kind of view this movie at all?
Nope.
Okay.
It's American history, man. We're assholes. Always have been.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to change that. So it doesn't affect it for me, because the circumstances was, yes, the Native Americans got chased off their land, and it was tragic, and that is a very, very tragic part of our history. On the flip side of that coin, the people running that race, they had no idea.
I question that. I think they kind of knew.
There's no way to know. There's no way to know.
They knew what was happening with the Native Americans at that time.
Not everybody did.
There were all kinds of treaties made. There was all kinds
but
of
not
news.
The common folk.
Yeah.
People, the politicians knew, and people of importance knew. But back then, even in America, there's tiers. And if they're giving away free land, you got Joe Farmer, who just wants to make his better life. He had no idea what was going on.
I have to question whether they did or did not know.
You can question it all you want.
I think
it doesn't change anything. So, I mean, we can't go back and rewrite history.
Yeah. I just feel like if Joseph had any inkling of knowing how this land was acquired that he's now so excited to get, it taints the whole story to me.
Well, if you think about it that way, it probably would.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got anything on that?
No.
I didn't think you would, bud. I didn't think you would.
Welcome to a new segment we like to call
Face the wheel.
The premise is simple. I will spin the wheel in whatever category comes up. John and Don will apply it to the movie that we are reviewing. Once they have presented their idea to me, I will decide the winner of this week's wheel. So here are the categories: mashup, plot, rename, genre, reboot, alternate ending. I liked it better when it was called spin again. Pick any. Add any character from any movie. Here we go. Genre.
You got one?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Musical?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Fire away, bud.
I would turn it into a slapstick comedy.
That's kind of where I was going to, but please continue.
And I would make it very, almost like a new version of Blazing Saddles, in that Joseph is kind of a klutz, even though he is the boxer, but he's tripping, he's hitting other people, he's bumping in, knocking everything over. She, on the other hand, is completely clueless. She has no idea what's going on in the world, and things are happening around her, and she's just not seeing it the whole time. And, you have the big kind of, ending still, but everything is just very, very slapstick Mel Brooks kind of comedy.
No, there you go. Comedy. Slapstick comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to go with science fiction. And instead of land in Oklahoma, it's different planets. So you have free planets in a certain galaxy, and Cuckoo Pants and Kidman use space technology, and they go from planet to planet to find their home planet. And yeah, that's fucking terrible.
I was going to say, it sounds like almost you're talking Cuckoo Pants language, because that sounds like Scientology.
Oh,
Could be.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm going with science fiction.
So John has slapstick comedy and Don has science fiction. Well, I think that the point's going to go to John.
Naturally.
Nuck, 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 nuck.
So there you have it, listeners. And that concludes this week's
Face the wheel.
All right, what do you guys think? You guys ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. John, are you ready to rate this flick?
I'd rather go diddling me own fiddle than review this here flick. But since I got nowhere else to be, let's do this thing.
Professor, how do we do our ratings?
We do our ratings on a scale of 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks is a movie that we think is cinematic gold. A 1 fuck movie is a movie that you watch it once and you're like, I'm never watching this again.
And what's a 0?
A 0 is when you get done watching the movie and you turn to your buddy and you say, oh, for shit's sake, what the hell? Why would you make me watch? I want 2 hours and 20 minutes of my life back.
Or in other words, we just don't give a fuck. All right, my pick, I'll go first.
You go first.
Thank you. Far and Away is a classic epic of what one would perceive as the American dream. I think that Ron Howard does a very sound job in telling us the story. It's coherent from beginning, middle, and end. Cuckoo Pants and Kidman take some getting used to, but eventually their charisma kind of takes over. And on the whole, Far and Away is not a horrible movie. It's a bit long. It does have John Williams. And, you know, at the end of the story, love conquers all. And I think it ending like that and kind of ending on a happy note, okay. Am I going to go back and watch it anytime soon? Probably not. But as far as a film, I think it's sound. It was executed properly. With all that being said, I'm giving Far and Away 3 solid fucks.
All right, John, what do you think? You want to go or you want me to go?
It's your call, sir.
Fine, I'll go.
Okay.
Far and Away is a movie that I haven't seen in several years, and I forgot probably at least half of the story points. And I thought that the movie felt a little long. 2 hours, 20 minutes is definitely long. I think that having it turn into a Western at the end, and I think this is probably Cruise's only Western that he's ever done. But it doesn't really turn into a Western until the third act. And I think that's why I find the movie most satisfying is in the third act. But throughout the movie, we have some very nice camera work that's done by Ron Howard. The chemistry between Cruise and Kidman is it's endearing, and clearly, they have a good work. They have a good work process in this movie that I think that they come across well. The characters, I think, were fun to watch, especially because they were at odds with each other through so much of the movie. I think that made it, I enjoyed that at the end of the movie. It has a bigger payoff because of that. The antagonist of the movie, Thomas Gibson, I thought that he was a good antagonist. And whenever he was around, he just felt like that, why are you here? So I thought that was good as well. The music in the movie done by John Williams showcases very, very well in the third act. And the land grab that they have at the end, it feels so epic. And how can it not? Because you have all of those extras, in the horses and the wagons, and it is majestic to see the camera work that goes with the run. And that run, it has so many moving pieces in it. It is very interesting to watch. I think that this movie probably comes across a little bit better than what I remembered it to be, because I remember seeing it the last couple times that I saw it, and I was like, yeah, all right. But I think that I enjoyed it more this time around because I knew that this is when Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, they'd only been together for a couple of years, and I think that Ron Howard knows how to put a solid movie together, and he worked on the chemistry of that. And so I'm glad that they chose to do this for these characters, that we were able to see them in this way. It worked for me. I think that this movie is a good watch, but it's not necessarily a great watch. And part of it has to do with because it takes so long to tell the story. My gosh, they spent a lot of time in Boston. And having this movie being that long, I don't know how soon I'll watch it again, but I do enjoy the movie. And so with that, I'm giving it 3.5 fucks.
3.5 fucks from the professor.
Would you like me to go next?
Sure, Negative Nancy.
Before I do, what score am I going to give it, Don?
Well, after searching my soul and knowing how you grade, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say 2.25 fucks.
2.25. Final answer?
2.25 final answer.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start with what I saw as the positives of Far and Away. The location, both in the United States, and I assume they filmed in Ireland. Beautiful locations, beautiful settings, and the way that they made the locations part of the movie and everything really worked for me. The story, very driving, very compelling. You wanted to root for your heroes in this movie. You wanted to root, at first you didn't want to like Shannon, but she grew on you. You wanted to root for Captain Cuckoo Pants to actually succeed and get his land. It really drew you into those characters. I thought Ron Howard's directing was fantastic. He was able to bring the story to life with a perfect balance of action, emotion, and historical context, making the film both entertaining and thought-provoking. I would have never done all this research that I did on the actual history if Ron Howard hadn't pulled me into the movie, hadn't gotten me interested in the background, the actual story behind the story. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, while their chemistry was great, their acting I also thought was really good. I mean, I believe some of it. There were some parts with their accents that seemed a little bit weird, took me a little bit out of it, as well as, not really fitting the parts at times. But otherwise, I thought they both did a great job. As for the negatives I see in this movie, well, I've already covered a lot of that. And before I started doing my research, I didn't really have a lot of negatives about this movie, except for I thought the pacing was slow in certain parts. I thought the fact that the movie just seemed awfully long to me. There are, even from like the first time I saw it, there were points where I kept wondering, is this movie going to ever end? So that tells me right there, it went on a little too long for me. When I started doing my research, like I said, it changed my opinion about the movie from really thinking it was a well-made movie to thinking there was more story to tell. And again, the negatives of that are going to impact whether or not I ever watch this movie again, in that I have troubles disassociating myself from watching, being happy for, Joseph getting his land in the end, and also being, concerned and sad of what the cost originally was for it. So taking that all in, I'm not going to penalize the movie as much for my personal negative feelings, because other people, like you were saying, Don, don't feel the same way. And again, for a lot of our reviews is for the listeners to decide if they're going to watch this movie or if this is a movie we could recommend to them. And this is a movie I can recommend to people for the hopes of, one, they'll enjoy the movie, and two, it might inspire them to do a little history, do a little research, and just learn, some of the history of our own United States. So for those reasons, I am giving Far and Away 2.75 fucks.
2.75 fucks from the comic book guy. With 2.75 fucks from the comic book guy, 3.5 fucks from the professor, and 3 fucks from myself, that gives Far and Away an average of 3.1 fucks, which ties it in the 23rd spot with Catch Me If You Can. It is slightly better than Flash Gordon, The Untouchables, The Wolf of Wall Street, Love Actually, and The Running Man. And it is slightly worse than Bloodsport, Starship Troopers, The Last Samurai, Red Dawn, Galaxy Quest, and Ratatouille. So there you have it. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out our website. Speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
You can find us at our website, threeguysinaflick.com, where we post our show notes, all of our podcasts, as well as anything else we feel like throwing in the site. And there's a web form there that you can submit a movie you would like us to review next. You can find us at all of social media and anywhere that hosts podcasts. And if you happen to be listening to us right now, which I assume you are, go ahead and leave us a comment, a like, give us a rating. We would love to hear from you.
All right. I just want to thank Yvette for throwing this into the Bronco helmet. We had a lot of fun watching it and reviewing it. We hope you have fun listening to it. I also want to thank anyone else who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For Three Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
3 guys with some mics, yeah, dart into the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Don as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops, now is shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd, we break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know, we always give a fuck, no lie.
I've no wish to fight you.
I have no wish to fight you.
You want to give it a shot?
No.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
I've got no wish to fight you.
Man, I can't wait to tell you what next week's movie is.
Another Ron Howard movie? Don't do that.
I'm just saying I can't.
All right.
So when was this movie released, Don?
I was about to fucking you son bitch.
I'm just trying to get you to move a little.
Thanks, buddy. Daffy Duff.
Dante Duff.
Dante Duff.
Dan or
Dante Duff.
Dante Duff. I'm gonna say Daffy Duck all night. Yeah, I mean this is where they hook up.
They don't hook up.
They kiss.
Yes.
What's the difference? Like they then drive his flag. You know what I'm saying.
Into her ground.
I didn't say her ground. All right, what do you got?
Why do I gotta go first? Why didn't he go first?
We went through this last week or 2 weeks ago. He says, I don't ever... I
don't have anything.
And he says, why did I have to go first? This was your idea. This whole thing was your idea. That's why you go first.
So what do you got?
One I just came up with. Fucking go away.
I have that.
Shut up.
Fuck,
do you really?
Fuck and go away. I have fuck in LA.
Fucking LA. Okay.
And fart in my face.
Huh. Interesting. Not really part of the rhyming scheme or name, but you know,
fucking go away was my favorite.
I think that's the winner. Fucking go away. All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck off. Good night.
Catch the vibe as 3 guys in a fight, keep the passion alive. Fuck